The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet.
Good afternoon. You're tuned into Ability Matters, the program that covers matters to do with abilities, disabilities and everything in between. We are one of the longest running disability-related shows in the world, starting as Headway On Air all the way back in 2007 and now brought to you by My Home Living Care, an NDIS registered disability support organisation.
Yes, thank you very much, Sean. This is still it's Ability Matters on your Illawarra's favourite community radio station, 106.9 VOX FM. Of course, I'm your host, Tony Scotty Emilio, and with me as per normal these days is my co-host, Beck. How are you, Beck?
Good. How are you today, Tony?
I'm going great guns. The weather's on our side too because good sunshine and not raining.
No wind. That's
wind
great.
Benefit, yes.
And no blackouts.
With the backlight's terrible the other night with all the wind.
Yeah, it was quite phenomenal. I actually waited. We thought it might come back on, but we weren't prepared to wait till 11:30 at night.
There were a few to begin with, like 2 or 3 that went less than a minute, and then the third one was really bang all night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to bed, so
I think it impacted largely in the Berkeley area. I'm not sure about any other suburbs that it went to, but I think maybe even out Marshall Mount Way, there was some problems out there as well.
Marshall Mount Way?
Yeah, it's out the back of Dapto.
Oh, okay. Fair
Between
enough.
Dapto and Yalla.
Oh, well, I'm not that familiar with the geography of the Illawarra, but I know like when I'm walking, but not off the top of my head, so no worries. Anyway, so what do we have to talk about today, Beck?
Oh, okay. So we've got a lovely pre-recorded interview, and that's been done by our program sponsor, Sean. Thank you so much, Sean, for jumping in and doing that for us. Last minute problem solver. Yes, good stuff. Yes, and he's going to be talking with Simone Stanley, and she is a business relationship manager that works with the plan tracker to maximise the potential of your NDIS plan.
To get the most you can out of your NDIS treatment or service, yes.
Yeah, so she's her organisation is actually they deal with plan management.
To make sure the plan fits you.
Yeah.
Shall we open up with that, shall we? Yes.
No worries.
No worries? Okay, good stuff. Here we go. It's in 3 parts, okay, so you're going to have to stay listening to get the whole show today, so a whole interview. But here we go. Here's the first part with Simone Stanley.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Ability Matters interview today. My name is Sean, and I'm doing an interview today. Beck and Tony will be talking about the interview a little bit after. We're going to break it up into a couple of parts to talk about. But today I am talking to Simone Stanley, who is a business relationship manager for Plan Tracker. Hello, Simone.
Hello, Sean. Thank you for having me on radio.
Thanks for coming on. Plan Tracker, our plan management organisation, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Simone is coming in from the Central Coast, the Wollongong of the North, as they say. How's the weather up there in the Central Coast?
Oh, beautiful blue sky. You know, no German can complain about this. The sun is shining, the sky is clear, and everyone is in a really great mood.
Fantastic. I've had the luck to go up to Central Coast a couple of times in the last couple of months, and we've had a lot of rain, lots of heavy rain down in Wollongong, and just about every time I've gone up there, it's been raining in Wollongong, and I go up the Central Coast and it's lovely and blue sky. So you are very in a very blessed part of Australia in terms of weather, especially the last couple of months. So enjoy it.
Yes, well, I would say it's the best place after Wollongong, of course.
Equal first. Let's do that. All right. So you mentioned German. You're from Germany.
Yes, and you won't believe it. I actually spend now more parts of my life in Australia than I did in Germany. There's 22 years now in Australia, and I still have that German accent that I can't get rid of.
And what part of Germany did you come from?
I come from close to Frankfurt, a little small country town with 2,000 people, and everyone knew everybody. And yes, I had a really beautiful growing up in nature, forest, and lots of rain and darkness.
Okay, and then how did you get to Australia? What's the story there?
Yeah, so I work for Volkswagen, and they make me work really, really hard, as they do with any German. I said, that's it, I need a break, and I wanted to go as far away as possible. And lots of my friends have told me about Australia. They've been here before and told me about the great lifestyle that you can have here in Australia, and also how great all these people are. And so I just thought, well, that's it. I'm going to pack my 20 kilos and came to Australia, and I travelled all around the coast, spent some time in New Zealand. But I loved it so much, Sean, that I rang my parents, early 20s, and said I'm never, ever going to come back. And so I never really did.
And what did they say? Did they say have fun or good luck or come back, or what was the mum and dad? What did they say?
And I guess it's every mum and dad. It was very hard for them, for me to leave the family. But you won't believe it. My sister then followed a couple of years later, so she now lives in Voi, which is not far away from where I am. And so now they lost 2 daughters to Australia, the best country in the world, right?
It's so funny. My nan retired, and she lived at Cronulla. I grew up at Cronulla, moved down to Wollongong a few years ago. She retired to Gosford, which is where everyone retired from Sydney years ago. So I've got that connection up there as well. Yeah, it's a nice place, part of the town. And you've got a family out here, a couple of kids?
Yes, I got 2 children, boy and girl, very sporty. And we do love that lifestyle of having the community, the neighbours and nature. It's a really great space to grow up in here. And we lived in the city for quite some time, and it feels a lot better and more slow and more down to earth.
Friendly and connected and community. Yeah. I remember when I first moved down from Cronulla 20 or 30 years ago down to Wollongong, and I used to, gently have a fun time with my friends, saying, you guys are a bit slow and relaxed and take it easy. And it was a couple of years before I realised that actually that was a compliment. That was a good thing. And, you're so caught up in the rat race in Sydney and just trying to, I don't know, in some ways crawl over the next person next to you to get ahead, that you don't realise it doesn't have to be that way. And, you get to these beautiful, just how the city areas, and it's a nice lifestyle. Fantastic. Now, you're working for an organisation that supports people with disability. What's your connection? How did you get involved in working with a company for working that supports people with a disability?
Supporting the NDIS sector has been incredibly rewarding on a personal level. I mean, every day we get the opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life. I mean, how great is that, Sean? We're very, very lucky and to have that as part of our life, right?
I agree. I don't tell my boss, but I can't believe that they pay me to do this. They let me do it and they pay me. It's fantastic.
Yes, so right. We are really lucky. But I also grew up with a family member who is in a wheelchair or is a wheelchair user and faces constant challenges of employment, access, independent living. And he's a twin. So one twin had all opportunities and the other didn't. So it was really impacting. So same growing up, same opportunities, but different. So, we are so lucky here in Australia that we have the NDIS scheme that builds that capacity and builds on those goals and gives those opportunities. So I really feel blessed in order to be able to work for Plan Tracker and actually see the impact that Plan Tracker can have, and I think it is really rewarding to be part of this.
Yeah, I'm a father of twins, so that really hits home. That my boys, they're 16, they're great kids. They really notice, though, one's a little bit taller than the other, or one's a little bit faster, or one's a little bit stronger, or one's a little bit this or that. Yeah. So have such a big difference between people must have been a real interesting family dynamic, and wow, what an experience to have.
Yes, and, even the really most challenging part in the family really was when parents passed away, and even the twin, the healthy twin passed away. So the twin who's a wheelchair user now is facing all these challenges of independent living and support and organising all these parts of his life. So it is very challenging, and again, I feel I'm so grateful that Australia offers this NDIS scheme there's opportunities for people to build on their capacities and build towards their goals and independence as much as possible.
Definitely. The NDIS is far from perfect, but when I compare it to where things were 10 or 15 years ago, it's an amazing change. I remember being at a conference about 20 years ago when someone said, look, we're going to put this thing together where everyone that deserves support will get it, and based on the level of support they need. And I thought, well, I've heard of some crazier schemes than that, but at that stage, maybe 15, 20% of the people got partly some of the funding that they required, and parents had to abandon their children at a hospital to get support. It was a horrible thing. And, now look where we are now. It's amazing. And again, there's lots of problems. We'll touch on them a little bit later, but the NDIS is just a fantastic thing to have, and, we're very lucky to be one of the few countries in the world that do have that.
I agree.
Of course, Sean. If we compare ourselves back to how things were back in the good old days, and yes, they weren't exactly as good as we'd like to think.
No, we really weren't. And I suppose that's touching on what she experienced with her family member that was in a wheelchair, and having to watch him miss out on all the opportunities and have all the challenges and barriers thrown up to participate in daily life the way that nearly everybody else can. It's an eye-opener.
As I don't think that was said, but I'll be the first to say it was more than just a challenge. It was effectively impossible. If you were certainly as physically unable as if you were limited to a wheelchair or anything else physical like that. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that access was a major thing that they come up with quite a lot. Even I know myself having mobility issues.
That's the one, mobility issues. Yes.
I'm not too good with stairs unless they've got handrails. So a lot of businesses that I went to get a sandwich or things like that, they didn't have stairs with a handrail, and I would think, well, you've just lost my business. I'm going to have to go somewhere else.
I can't imagine you doing the old school things that like we used to do back in the day, like in primary school, things like that. We're sitting there on your bottom, going up one step at a time, and
I just wouldn't do it.
No.
Yeah,
Two people would.
I've had to crawl once to chase my walker when it's gone downhill across the car park, and that was quite interesting. I couldn't find anyone at the time to help me, but as I got halfway across, he's like, do you need a hand there? And I kind of had to giggle and say, it's all right, I'm already halfway across. I might as well keep going.
If you had said that maybe 1-2 minutes ago, I might have had a different response, but at the moment, I'm okay. Thank you very much.
But I think it's interesting that she comes from the Central Coast, and she's actually got a bit of German heritage. I resound with that. My family's on my dad's side's from Germany, so...
Is it from the same place? Because I believe she mentioned she was from Frankfurt.
No, I'm Dresden and Hamburg. And they're quite contrast from each other. One's up the top and one's right down the bottom. So
far apart, yes.
I don't know how my grandparents
So we're talking like Queensland, Tasmania? That sort of thing?
Kind of. It would be. So I'm not sure how they ran into each other and things like that. But and it's interesting because we haven't really heard about how people work in the space of plan managers with NDIS. We've heard a lot about support workers and different things like that, but actually getting in on the ground level and helping people to put a plan together that's going to work.
More of the reality check, not so much the people on the books behind the scene.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm sure this Simone represents.
She gets in and she pretty much identifies the different things that might maximise the funding that you're able to get through NDIS and how you can use that to your advantage.
And the main benefit of all this is how much you will benefit from it itself. I said benefit twice in the same sense.
You're right. Oh, good. So I think, as she spoke about using Plan Tracker, and that will help with building capacity and also giving people independence to do their own thing. So,
because that's her role, that's her line of work, isn't it? She's a plan tracker for the NDIS.
Yeah.
Now, aside from all that, there's been nothing but talking so far on the show. Let's just get into some music, shall we? I've got some Clarence Clemens and Jackson Brown with You're a Friend of Mine from 1985. Yeah. Yes, that was just the Eagles with Lion Eyes from 1975. And now let's go straight back into the interview with Simone Stanley in terms of her being a plan tracker of the NDIS.
Yeah, well, let's hear what Sean and her have to discuss in this next part.
It was a pre-recorded interview with Sean. And yes, here we go. This is
jumped in the last minute. Thanks, Sean.
So this is the second part of 3. Thank you very much. So one to go after this.
There's lots of different moving parts to the NDIS. There's organisations that provide all different kinds of support. There's the therapists, there's support coordinators, or I guess like case managers, and there are plan managers. What do plan managers do in the NDIS?
So when it comes to managing your NDIS fund, there are actually 3 main options. There's self-management, there's agency management, and there's plan management. So self-management is when you organise your own payments, choose your providers, and then you keep track of all that financial reporting and records.
So you essentially run a small business.
Yes, you pretty much do. And that can actually take up to 20 hours a week to stay on top of your NDIS plan when you're self-managed. But when you're plan managed, you can actually get that time back because you look after those payments, you keep track of funds and take care of that financial reporting that is needed so that participants can purely focus on their goals. And the good news, Sean, really is that plan management can be funded through your NDIS plan. All you have to do is when you start talking about your plan and set that up, that you say, I would love to have plan management included. And it does give you that 20 hours, up to 20 hours back, and really focus on what really matters, and that is working towards your goals.
But still having that flexibility to choose your supports, because one of the things you mentioned there is around agency managed. So there are a couple of, I guess, two distinct types of organisations within the NDIS in broad terms. One is a registered organisation, one is a non-registered organisation or a non-registered person. And the registered is generally bigger organisations and organisations that work with more complex clients. And there's a whole process of registration and assessment with the NDIS, and then you get audited every couple of years. And that's obviously quite an involved process, and there's a lot of cost and time and effort and administration involved with that. And it does allow some of those more complex clients that have health needs and things. There's a way of assessing those companies to make sure that they're doing the right thing. But there's also services like mowing the lawns, or there might be a psychologist that works with children and doesn't only work with people with the NDIS. And so for them to go through that whole process of registration is very onerous and not probably doable. And so by being plan managed, it allows people to access those supports and often it can be for a better price as well. And for somewhere like, outside of Sydney, Wollongong or the Central Coast, often there's not enough psychologists around, or occupational therapists or speech therapists or any of these allied health professionals. They do other work outside of the NDIS, and so being able to people with disability, the NDIS funding, being able to access those supports without them having to be registered makes a lot more flexibility and choice for people.
Yes, it really does. And so when you're plan managed, you can choose any person or business with an ADN to provide the support, which when you're agency managed, your funding is managed by the NDIS, and you can only use providers who are registered with the NDIS. And as you said, there are providers that work outside of the scheme. So we actually identified that, and therefore we actually built 3 customer care teams. So one is for support coordinators, where support coordinators can call in and get all the answers that they need, because plan can be linear and life goes up and down, and the plan might not just quite work for that scenario. So those support coordinators can ring in and find the answers, what they need. Then we have that customer care team where participants can call in and ask those questions and utilize our tools and resources. And last but not least, that provider care team, which actually takes care of those providers. So that provider that is new to the NDIS scheme or doesn't know how to set out an invoice or what line item to charge or whatever that question might be, that provider care team is actively reaching out to providers, but also providers can actively reach that team to ask those questions to get that invoicing right. We really believe in education is there to get the better outcomes in the end. So that's why we structured Plan Tracker for those 3 customer teams, support coordinator care team, customer care team, and provider care team, so that each of our customers can get what they need as part of education to get the better outcomes for us.
Fantastic. So if someone is a lawnmower and they just mow lawns, around their own business, they can then also support people with disability and bring those skills that they've got from years of lawn mowing or, whatever their business is, and you guys will educate them on how to do the invoicing and I guess an important part of what you guys do as well as plan managers I'm aware of is service agreements, which are very important. They set out expectations of how things will happen in terms of billing and services provided and dispute resolution and all these sorts of things, and plan managers play a big role in making sure the service agreements are there and are appropriate. So
yes, we love service agreements, and we upload them into the portals so that participants and support coordinators can actually see what funding is allocated and what is spent, so that they have a real reflection of what's still available. Because sometimes you can have an agreement with somebody, but it's not really reflective of where you sit on your plan and what's been taken already. So, it's a really good budgeting tool, and it's a really important one, and it's setting out that expectations, as you said. It's very good to see that visually.
Yes, and we sort of talked about it a little bit earlier before we're coming on there that around there's graphs and all kinds of budgeting and planning tools there. Some people have plans that may be 1 year or 2 years or even 3 years long, and you can look at the amounts and think, okay, they're quite large, but it can be very easy to overspend your funding if you don't get the hours right and the budgeting right, and you don't want to sort of end up not having enough funding to last for the 3 years of the plan, and it can be quite fiddly, and you've got different funding amounts for different therapists or lawnmowers or support organisations or whatever it is. It can be very easy to lose track of that. So having those tools I think are very handy and very useful. Years ago I used to work as a support coordinator, and I used to use some of those tools, just planning, if someone had so much funding, how many hours a week they could get, and making sure that we didn't run out of money, which is, obviously not a great thing if people are requiring support and there's money's not there, as well as making the best use of the money as well, how things can be organised to provide the best support. One of the things that probably people are aware of in the news at the moment is around fraud. And those sorts of things, and plan managers obviously have a big role in working with that and preventing that and managing that as well.
Yes, as you said, and as I said before, education is a really big piece. So, we only pay invoices for the right category items, for the right pricing, with the right costs and so forth. So it's really, really important to educate what's right, what's wrong, and pay what's right and what's wrong, and not pay what's wrong. So it is a really important piece of the puzzle. And I believe that plan management is actually quite important in the scheme of things in order to navigate through those things and educate the communities, the providers, support coordinators, participants. Because, plan management, it's like an accounting. And it's a very complex environment with lots of changes all the time. And as you've said, and there's lots of news around and lots of media attention. But we like to take the worry out of that so that participants can purely focus on what really matters, and we can do all the things that are more complex and stay on top of it as well.
Yeah, and if they hear about this really good support worker that's, I guess, very good at music or something specific that they like, then you can sort of work with them to bring them in and make sure all the invoicing and everything's done, and they can focus on the support and having a great life.
Yes, that's the idea. And that's where, for us, one of our values really is customer always, and that is what really matters for us as it is.
Right, let's just get back to the interview we just heard, part 2 of the Sean interview.
So I suppose that
Simone
was
Stanley, yes.
I suppose it was interesting how we heard about self-management, which can actually take you up to 20 hours a week to do all the different bits and pieces that you have to do.
Plan management, yes.
Plan management, you can get that time back, and you have that flexibility where you can actually choose anyone that has an ABN instead of having to go with limited providers that might be available through a different agency.
Well, I can speak from experience here because I started off as being self-managed and now I'm plan managed. And I can say this much, the self-managed one was a lot more, I can use a big word now, a lot more arduous or difficult, whereas the plan managed was a lot more kind of like passing the ball into the other court sort of thing. So all the, I want to use kind of like a bad word now, but I'm refusing.
There's no bad words.
Oh, yeah, okay. All the crazy, difficult, tedious little box
bits and
ticking,
pieces, yeah.
which you have to look after when you're self-managed. When you're plan managed, you get all that time back that you would spend just trying to ticking all the boxes, dotting all the I's, that kind of thing. But yeah, plan managed. Also pick the right people so you can get the maximum out of your allotted funds. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I suppose I'm going to use some analogies so that people might get it. It's kind of like doing your own tax or going to the accountant and letting him look after all of that for you.
Yes.
And you just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Or doing the accounts for an organisation, you can hand them off to the bookkeeper and she'll look after, or she or he or...
Yep. The accountant
will look after for it.
Yes.
So
because that's their job.
Yeah.
And the plan manager, that's their occupation.
That's what they're there to do. They're there to make it a little bit easier for you to navigate through. It's a bit of a minefield sometimes trying to work all that stuff out. So
minefield, correct.
That's probably the best way I can put that.
I suppose, taxes is probably one of the more everyday things that people might relate. The NDIS papers.
Well, everyone has to do tax, so...
And everyone on the NDIS would probably have to do this plan management too, wouldn't they?
Even if they do a degree, yes.
I know a lot of people, they start off thinking, I want to do it myself because I'll get the best I can out of it for me, but that's not always, it's easier said than done.
There's a lot of reporting behind that as well that I don't think many people would actually understand. That's one of the parts of having that self-management.
Components, yes.
Yeah, components.
Like I said before, a lot of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. If you can't cross the T's right or dot the I's to the best level, they're not going to get the maximum out of the NDIS plan that's fitted best for you.
And that's when you have to get in a third party, which would be a family member, to double check everything that you're doing. And I'm not sure that, they wouldn't like that after a while.
Bit of a pain, to put it that way. I don't want to say the second part of that little expression, but yes. Shall we move on to more music, shall we?
Yeah, let's hear some more tunes.
Because, by the way, this is still Tony Scott in the chair, and that's still Beck over there with the other side of the chair. The table, and we're still listening to Ability Matters on 106.9 VOX FM. Now I'm going to take you back to, I suppose we go back to the 90s now with the Black Sorrows and Never Let Me Go. Lovely. Okay, that was just Mondo Rock, great little Aussie band there, with Come Said the Boy from 1983. And now we're just going to jump straight into the third part of the interview with Simone Stanley, a plan tracker from the NDIS.
And you work for an organisation, as we mentioned earlier, called Plan Tracker. Tell me a little bit about Plan Tracker. So the mission, you said there is customer always?
Yeah, so Plan Tracker was born around 8 years ago at the Central Coast of New South Wales, and it was like a kitchen table enterprise, but it grew very quickly. And the founder of Plan Tracker has lived experience of disabilities, and therefore her focus really was coming from an end consumer. How do I like to have that data displayed that I can understand it? How can I have the service agreements displayed so that I can see that funding is taken away? How can I get the best information on and resources and, have that customer service contact that helps me to manage my work through the plan? So this is where it was born from, and I think it's still very reflective. And even so now, Plan Tracker is owned by a bigger group called Macmillan Shakespeare, who also owns Plan Partners, which is the second largest plan manager. Plan Tracker still has, and that group now has still that value, customer always. So we've not really changed much from small to big. We still have those same values. And, they not only include customer always, we also believe in better together, because it takes a community to achieve those goals together, and we need to be better together. And we believe in strive for greatness, because only if we strive for better and greatness, we can better ourselves. And everyone matters in this community. Everyone, definitely. Internally, externally, everyone matters. And we really want to be that trusted partner in making those complex matters simple. And it's these values that we display. And we are so lucky to be part of a larger group, because that really gives us that backing, and it helps us with those efficiencies, and it helps us with security and data protection and so forth. So we are very lucky, and we are very lucky to have those values and really being that trusted partner in that community. So and, as you know, Sean, we love our community, and, I love being part of that community, and, I love that Enables party that you run every second month, that Plan Tracker sponsors, and seeing participants and their smiles and being in this inclusive environment and having that safe space to have a party and go on that dance floor and dance. And, we love when our community calls us and says, and we just had that the other day, Sean, it was just such a rewarding feeling.
You're talking about Enables there. It's every second Sunday of every second month. It's at the Sunken Monkey Hotel up in Erina. It's an inclusive event. It's at a public pub. And we have, inclusive event. We have lots of people with disability, lots of people without disability come along. Yeah, we did have a lot of people to our last one last week and a half ago, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, you filled that dance floor with your good tunes.
Yes. Well, they do have a world-class DJ that appears in Enables, which is me. I get up there and play some music and have a lot of fun. So I was just going to say, as a DJ, it's one of the best gigs you can do, because the crowd are so responsive and they enjoy themselves and get in and dance like no one's watching. And, we get lots of requests. And just the other night we had True Blue by John Williamson requested, and we played it, and everyone got on the dance floor and linked arms and sang the song and had a great moment together. It's a lot of fun. I think it's important people know that there's not a lot of money in plan managers. It's funded well, but not hugely well. So you do need that kind of economies of scale. So having a large organisation allows you to have investments in the technology. However, plan management, I think, is very competitive. So to be successful as you are, you're obviously doing something right and meeting those customers' needs, because it's very easy for them to choose to go elsewhere. That's obviously a tick. But also, I think, personally yourself, Simone, and the organisation you work for, you're doing a really good job in, for example, I think it shows up the sponsorship of Enable. So we have sponsors that cover the cost of the pizzas and gifts that we give away. And not only does the organisation provide financial sponsorship, but Simone's there every event, dancing away, getting on the dance floor, leading the dances, making sure everyone's having a good time, bringing little gifts and presents for everyone, and being the life of the party. So it's, I really want to recognise that and thank you for that. I think you and I were both very lucky. We get to work for great organisations and they allow us to do all these great things. But also I think you're an amazing person in the way that you've made that connection and financially supported, but you come along and really get in and have a lot of fun, as well as ensuring everyone else has some fun as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sean, for all these compliments. And, as you said, we are both so lucky that we work for businesses that have those great values, and that we're able to do where our hearts are, and seeing that impact that we can have and seeing those smiles. I find this incredibly rewarding. So really thank you for your complimentary words. And it's such a pleasure to do it. And it's such a beautiful thing to see what inclusion means, and how happy it makes all these people on those dance floors, and how they remember you, and you providing this music and they're coming up to you. It's just a really great place to be in.
Some of the real special moments to me too are when members of the public walk in, they don't know what's going on, they see us having fun and they join in. A couple of events ago we had some families that were having something to eat and they came and joined in as well. It's great for everyone to get together and have some fun. Just a little bit more about Plan Tracker. Can you give me just a little bit of an idea of how big they are, how many customers roughly you got, area of operations, a little bit of detail like that about Plan Tracker?
Yeah, so we are a nationwide plan manager. There's teams in most states of Australia, and so as I said, Macmillan Shakespeare also owns Plan Partners, and they are the second largest plan manager. So for Plan Tracker, we have just under 9,000 participants on our platform. So we are relatively big. And we only have plans, as I said, to be more in the community and continue with those values and do this community pace. That's what we really believe as a business, and that's what we keep on doing. And I saw on your website, doing a bit of research, there's many events that you support other than Enables as well. What are some of those things that you do or you've done? Yeah, so we just had this, I really love to share this experience. It was just so wonderful, and it really was reflective of our values. It was so great to see that our community recognised them. We had a customer calling in asking us to support the MS, multiple sclerosis community at the Central Coast, and they had an event, and they said, oh, we would love for Plan Tracker to be there and have a table, and and in no time the customer care team rang me and said, hey, Simone, someone rang in and asked. I said, no worries, let's do it. Got the marketing team behind it, and next thing we turned up on a table. We were able to sponsor a prize to give away, and it was so great to be part of that community, and we were able to share their story. And as you know, we love doing our socials with filming what's happening. But the great outcome really was that the customer always knew that they had this opportunity to ring in and ask us to be part of that community, and we would actually show up. So that was a really great pace. It really was so special to have this full circle experience. And, not only that, we also have a relationship with Bunnings where we get the local schools to come through Bunnings, do a little tour, build a barbecue, and then that barbecue gets donated to a not-for-profit organisation. And it's really nice for the students with disabilities to actually give back to their own community and tell that story and be part of that story. So these are all really beautiful stories to tell, and they really show our values, and they really show how also customers have acknowledged our values and starting to reach out. So I really love that piece, and I think it's fantastic. And, enables us part of that, like we are able to do this together and be better together and provide this inclusive events. And all of those little stories are beautiful stories to tell the community and show what we can do collectively together.
Well, fantastic. My final question, after this we'll talk a little bit about how people can find out more about Plan Tracker, but before we do that, if you were Harry Potter and you had a magic wand and you could wave it around and improve the world, what would it look like? What would those improvements be?
Oh, so when am I going to get that magic wand?
You can have it after me. I'm borrowing it first.
Thank you. I would love to see plan managers continue to play a role in helping to shape the future of the NDIS together with the NDIA, because we have a very close relationship with many participants, providers and support coordinators, and a lot of insight is so invaluable and ensuring a success of the scheme going forward. And we are so grateful for the scheme. We are very grateful for the NDIS scheme. And we know that the NDIS provides a positive impact for people with disability. And we also know that 60% of participants using plan managers, and, we want to continue to do that great work with the community.
Wow, 60%. I didn't realise, sorry to jump in, 60%, I didn't realise it was so high. I know, I think plan managers are a fantastic idea. We talked about it before. They provide that flexibility. I didn't realise it was as high as 60%. Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic.
Because I think it does really take that worry away, and it also gives you that time back to really focus on what you need to be focusing on, is working towards your goals and have that support.
And the flexibility to pick up different organisations and support people with different skills. That's fantastic. All right, so how do people find out more about Plan Tracker?
Yes, so go on our website, plantracker.com.au, and also follow us on our socials. You will see what we will do in the community. We try to share a lot what's happening in the community on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can even join me on LinkedIn under Simone Stanley, if you like. You will see all what we are up to and all events that are coming up. And, of course, you can also ring in. And I think, Sean, you know our number?
Yes, it's 1-800 549 670. I'll say that again. Grab that pen and paper. The number is 1-800 549 670. And, of course, you can just Google Plan Tracker as well. That'll take you to the appropriate places as well. Fantastic organisation, doing fantastic work, and you're a fantastic person, Simone. Thanks for coming onto Ability Matters.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me, and thank you for your kind words, and it's been great to work together, and I'm being on radio. Thank you so much.
Yes, some very interesting information there.
Definitely. And I have to apologise. I actually thought that Plan Tracker was the software application that they use to track the plans, but it's actually the name of the company.
Wow.
It's very ingenious.
A communication breakdown there, perhaps. Yes. Well, anyway, the main things of course, there was a very detailed information was written, said in that little interview, but the main details you're supposed to get from it was the contact details. So now you can always go, the phone number is free call 1-800-549-670. Pen and paper ready? That's 1-800-549-670. Also, the website is www.plantracker.com.au. That's plantracker.com.au.
And also, you can connect with them on Facebook, or you're able to get in touch with her personally through LinkedIn.
I'm not familiar with LinkedIn. Is that like a?
It's like it's basically where you put your It's kind of a professional.
Oh, it's like a professional Facebook sort of thing. Yeah?
Contacts. You can kind of network. So if there's something that you think might be beneficial for what you do,
so LinkedIn's
jump
like
in and get
social.
connected.
Yes, okay.
With Simone Stanley.
That's the one.
At Plan Tracker.
Lovely.
And I just wanted to point out, I really loved her their motto and their phrase, strive for greatness.
Because even if you don't get there, bit below, that's better.
At least you're aiming for it.
Exactly. And this is Tony Scott signing off. And Beck, how are you going to say goodbye?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for listening, and hope to be with you again next week, and have a great show.
Yes, thank you for listening.